episode of the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the onocoffee channel. I'm your host, and we do this live stream most Monday through Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern, where we talk about coffee and answer questions and have discussions about coffee. And we're back in the car after a day of hiatus while I was at the courthouse. And right now I'm driving through a town called Glendon, Maryland. This little picturesque town here. Actually was founded in 1871, and I don't know anything else about it. We're on the way to a place called the Reisters Daughter, which is in a town called Reisterstown here in Maryland, which is the next town to this one. And it's interesting, Reisterstown was founded by a guy named John Reister. And John Reister, I was reading about him, he lived in the 1700s. He actually lived from 1715 to 1804. So he lived to be 91 years old. And if you're 91 years old in the 1700s, wow, you must be pretty darn wealthy, right? Like, you had to have had a good life. Kione, aloha to you, man. Maku, good morning. So we're on the way to this place. Now, so interestingly enough, now, as we cross over this bridge, now we're still in Glendon. Glendon, like you see there's sign, 1871 is the founding. But we're headed to Reisterstown, and John Reister, like I said, it was a German immigrant, and I thought it was kind of interesting, like, someone from Germany named John, is that really how he's named? I was like, but what does Reister mean? So I looked it up, and Reister is actually a surname that is given, that is what's called a habitational surname, which means that it's given to people who are from certain areas, and Reister was the name that was given to people, surname that was given to people that were from Reiste in Westphalia, Germany. So I'm thinking that Reisters, as a last name, was really due to people, the American immigration people who just didn't understand language, or just too lazy to do language. They just gave people whatever names they had. And so I'm presuming they gave the guy named John. They told him, your name is now John. You're from Reister, your name is John Reister. So Reisters town. Now the place we're going to is a place called Reister's Daughter. And the Reister's Daughter is a relatively new coffee shop that was built here within the last, I think, 5 years or so. And it's a specialty coffee shop. It's actually pretty darn good. I've been there a couple times. So I thought I'd take you along and show you the place. Kent, how are you? Good morning. The power plant, good morning to you. So now we are definitely in the Reisterstown. We've left Glendon. Now we're in Reisterstown. Reisterstown is one of the larger towns in northwestern Baltimore County. And so it's got kind of a central business district kind of feel to it. Normalized perversions, what's going on? How are you today? So as you can see here, there is a Georgian restaurant. Oh, interesting. We have a Georgian restaurant closer to where I live. Actually, quite interesting. When you go to these, so many different cultures will have some sort of dumpling. I've noticed there's a lot of dumplings, all over the world, dumplings of some sort. Makes me kind of wonder why that is. All right, so as you can see, there's a Gran Pollo here. So a quaint, kind of suburban, rural kind of town. Jane Gamer, how are you, man? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. We do coffee here pretty much every day. Here it is. Reister's Daughter is this brick building in the front. Now, we can't park in the front because there's really no parking on the street there. So we have to go to the back. And we're going to go park in here. Oh, there's a spot for us right here. Excellent, excellent. All right. Now, they do have a rear pickup window, which we will not be going to. I don't like to go to pickup window. I like to go inside and see the place. Power plant says, love that East Coast architecture. Yeah, the old architecture. Although for the Germans, for our European friends, they're probably like, that's not old. It's only a couple hundred years old. So here's a little interesting sign. Buffalo Soldiers The first Sergeant Augustus Wally, a Reisterstown native, was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor for bravery at Cuchillo Negro Mountain in New Mexico, dedicated on the 100th anniversary of the Spanish-American War. Oh, interesting. All right, so let's go here. We're going to make our way. So there's a little bit of seating outside in the back, but it's a bit chilly today, so we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do the. I'm wearing this kind of like nice top, but that's all I'm wearing, and a t-shirt, and it's not very. It was not a good idea. It was not a good idea. So here's our main street. If you ever come here, there's a place called The Cow that sells ice cream and frozen custard and Italian ice. That's quite fun. So here it is. Come in, we're open. The Reisters' daughter. I wonder if they're related to John Reister. I'm going to ask. Ooh, that's a nice space in there. Look at that. Wow. It'd be kind of cool to rent this space out for a gallery or something. All right, let's go inside. Here's the shop. Oh, there it is. Nice. I don't want to show anyone because you never know what people get kind of strange about that. But they do have like La Marzocco and Malconi grinders, so that's a good thing. Got some swag, some ceramics. Big old bun for their thing. That's nice. Good morning. I would like to have a coffee. What kind of coffee do you think is best?
It really depends on your.
No, what do you think is best?
I can't have coffee.
Oh, you can't have coffee. What do you think is the best coffee here?
Are you thinking coffee or latte?
A coffee. Well, something coffee. What do you think is the best coffee? What would you have? What do you like to have here?
I like a brown sugar latte.
Brown sugar latte?
Yeah.
All right, I'll have brown sugar latte.
Sounds good.
What would you have with the brown sugar latte?
In what way?
Like food-wise.
Food-wise.
Like this is all made here, is that right?
Yep, we make
Okay.
them in house.
Oh, nice, nice.
So, Pop-Tarts are very popular.
So what would you have with the brown sugar latte? You can't have any of it.
No.
Why?
I have a very weird diet.
Oh gosh. Well, how about you? What would you have with the brown? Since you recommended brown sugar latte, what would you have with it?
Probably the blueberry scone.
Oh, you're the baker.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
What do you know what?
Do you agree? The brown sugar latte blueberry scone, or what would you have?
I would have brown sugar latte and a strawberry shortcake scone.
Excellent. I will have that.
Perfect.
Strawberry shortcake scone, you said? Oh, interesting. All right.
Okay, and just regular milk on the latte for that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for asking.
And hot or iced. Fantastic.
Oh, hot, 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 hot. Hot is always proud.
Strawberry shortcake scone. Okay, so for those two, it's 806.
806? Oh, I might have some change. I see.
Perfect.
I do not. Sorry.
Ah,
I wish I did, but
it works. Right away.
just give me a 10 anyway. That's fine.
10?
Yeah. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, for here to go.
To go.
You go.
To go,
So
please. Yeah,
get it ready and call it
thank
out
you.
when it's
Thanks. All right, so let's go browse around. Oh, hey, I meant to ask you, Reister's daughter, why?
Because this is their house.
Oh, so it's not related to the original John Reister family.
Yes, this is John Reister's house, and his daughters owned it after him. So this is their house that we've converted into.
But the owners of the business are not
No.
descendants of the Reisters.
No. I don't know if there are any living settings with the Reisters anymore. Anyway.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, thanks. Let's go take a look in here. So we got a little bit of it's a big farm table. I like the ceilings. Look at the ceilings. Just the open rafters. I think that's nice.
What did you bring?
We're gonna wait for the meal here. Okay, sorry, I've been. Oh, power plants. I gotta get some meta glasses. I should get the meta glasses. There's a little chair here. I'm gonna sit down in this chair while I wait for our meal. The store people are confusingly uncertain. I mean, it's if you're someone that's not drinking or not consuming your own product, it's hard to say. But I do one thing I have to note that like my questions whenever I go to a coffee place are relatively pointed and direct about and meant to be rather specific about like what does the barista like, and that is actually a really it's intentionally a difficult question because it's really meant to put the onus on the barista. And it's difficult mainly because like a barista that works in a coffee shop is not going to be very they're not used to that question, right? They're going to ask like what's really popular. They're not necessarily I don't think baristas are typically used to being asked what they really think is the best. I think it's an off. I have to say that it is a bit of an off-putting question. And as a barista, when you're serving guests, you want to guide people towards their preferences so that they have the best experience possible. I mean, I do that too. Like a lot of people come when they come to me and they'll say, "What's really great?" I say, "Well, what are you into?" Because it's kind of like we have to tailor to it. And I think that in my case, I position myself a little bit differently. Well, very differently than most people that come into a coffee shop, in that I'm really not interested in tasting or trying to direct my drink selection to what I would like. Oh, brown sugar latte. Brown sugar latte. Let's go. Ooh. All right. Thank you very much. Brown sugar latte. Brown sugar latte. Let's go have the brown sugar latte now. They should take over that space next door. All right, let's go out to the... So we're here, brown sugar latte, 16 ounce, a little bit big. Well, I don't really like big drinks. It's just too much. I have to say that, I'm always disappointed. I'm always a little bit disappointed whenever the baristas are like want to offer like a sweetened flavored latte. I'm always like, is this really the greatest thing that you? Is this really what you think is the great? But like I said, I'm always willing to try because sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. Sometimes we're not, but sometimes we're pleasantly surprised. Oh my goodness, it's cold. It is chilly. But not as cold as we've had it in the past. Okay, so let me put this back up here. Power plant says 320 milliliters is the perfect size. Yeah, I think 12 ounce. Oh, that's less. I know that's more like 10 ounces, but somewhere right around there is always a nice amount, right? But like I said, so I think that it's very much about like me asking the question of like what should I have based on their preference is very off-putting for Brie. Like it's very it's because like I said, I don't want to have my preference met. I want to see what you like because maybe I need to expand my horizons. Okay, so let's open it up and see what we have. How does it look? looks a little bit thick on the foam. Texture-wise, looks pretty good, right? It looks smooth. It's not too bubbly. A little bit bubbly. I don't know if they let it sit for a little bit too long. Maybe they made it first and they were waiting for the. It looks like they made it first and then we're waiting a little bit for the pastry to be prepared or whatever. I don't know if they heated it or not. We'll find out. Very, very chocolatey. The coffee's kind of has a chocolatey character. Not bad. There is kind of an artificially flavor to the flavor. What's it, caramel latte or something like that? You know, after a few moments, when people are like talking about like flavored coffees, it becomes like I'm in the Peanuts, you know, TV show. Or whoa, 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 whoa. It's like I just hear flavored latte or whatever. Like I say, like iced caramel or like caramel latte, and then after that, it's just going. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm like, okay, I'll just go with it. Yeah, I don't know if I like whatever flavoring they're using. The syrup is. It tastes a little bit. Like the flavor tastes artificial. Good temperature, nice milk. Like it's sweet enough. It's not too sweet. It's not like they put a lot of sweetener, so it's not bad. It's not terrible, that's for sure. Let's hope the latte is better than court coffee. Oh yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, you saw that post from yesterday. The court coffee was the coffee they were serving out of the vending machine at the courthouse was pretty wretched. Luckily, I brought a piece of the king cake that I had bought the other day, so I had that, so it was a little bit more pleasant. All right, so let's have a look at the scone. She said strawberry shortcake scone. I was like, what? And that's the nice thing. So I asked the person ringing me up, and she was like, well, I had dietary restrictions, so I don't eat any of the stuff here. I was like, okay, well, that's a challenge. And then I asked the barista, and she was like, well, the blueberry muffin or something. But luckily, we had the baker there, and I was like, oh, the baker's here. So let me ask the baker, because this is what she makes. She will know what she will have. So we told her, this is what I'm having, the drink-wise, and what should I have? And so she recommended this strawberry, I think she said strawberry shortcake scone, and it looks pretty good. Look at that. I think that's a nice looking scone. Scone. Here in America, it's not scone, it's scone. Scone. Let's break it apart. Or let's break it from this way. We'll see who wants to give that way. Oh, looks pretty nice. Just lightly sweet, or moderately sweet. Not, I would say lightly, but moderate to light. Nice, like little bit of like strawberry flavor, not very strawberry forward, just nice hints, and actually not dry, really nice, good moisture, good structure. Maybe a little bit too sweet, but that's pretty good. George says the foam look blue. I think that's just because of the sunlight, the blueness. George says, good morning. You missed your day. No, I'm actually in Reisterstown, Maryland. Power plant says that is weird because when I ask that in California, they usually can fire off one or two drinks right away. You know, I mean, but I like I said, I tend to chalk it up that my request is usually a very unusual. I think it's an unusual request, like to really be adamant, and I'm pretty adamant about it. Like, not what I don't care. Like, really, I try to communicate that I don't really care what I like. Like, what I like is irrelevant. What you like is what I'm interested in, and that's why, you know, whatever they say, I'll go in that direction. I just wish they were a little bit. So almost like, I wish the barista was a little bit more into like, I don't know, straight coffees. I don't know. Again, this is the bias that I have to like, that I'm trying to fight against, right? Like, most baristas in the industry will not be as focused in their coffee selections as I might be. So, like, I don't think we could get, and we haven't gone to like really hardcore places, but for the most part we go to pretty, normal places, average, places where average people would go, where a lot of lattes are served. So I think there's a lot of proclivity to lattes. Charles, how are you, man? Good to see you. Marco says, I'm also disappointed when a barista recommends a sweet drink, but I get it. Plus, in my experience, most baristas are not coffee enthusiasts, so they themselves go for the sweet stuff. I mean, that's an honest point. I think that's an honest point. Keone says, when going to a new coffee shop, I usually get a black coffee or espresso just to see how the coffee is. Yeah, I hear you on that. I hear that. And typically, if I'm actually, well, I mean, I don't know. If I'm actually going to a place that I'm not actually going with you guys here on the live stream, or I'm not actually featuring in a video that I'm shooting, I pretty much will do the same. Like, I'm not as adventurous when I'm just on my own. I tend to be very unadventurous. I'm like, okay, what's the black coffee here? I'll have that. Let's have the black coffee. Dev, good morning to you. Well, good morning anyway. Power Plant says, you also just got to go to places that serve good coffee and not coffee drinks. But I don't know, there's no real place here. I don't know if there's any place in America that doesn't do coffee drinks as well. So, like, even the hardcore places that I know, like, yeah, even the most hardcore places are all places that will be very, they'll also do lattes and things like that. Power Plant says, last time in San Diego, every place I went to had very good filter coffee. Oh, nice. I did not go to I mean, I don't know if they have good filter coffee or not here. But next time we'll try. I think the times that I've been here in the past, it's always been filter coffee, because it's the safest. It's the technically safest that I can possibly get. And if I'm all by myself, then I'm not really interested in necessarily being adventurous. I'm just more in like safety mode. Devin asked, where did you go today? We went to a place here in Reisterstown, Maryland called the Reisters Daughter, which is a coffee shop that opened maybe like about 5 years ago. Or no more than 5 years ago. But nice little place. There used to be another coffee shop down the street. I don't know what happened to them. They went out of business or something. This place is a little bit nicer. At least it's like, their approach is, more thoughtful. So every once in a while when I'm out this way, I'll check it out. But I decided that since I have to head out to a different part today, I'd swing out this way on the way to where I'm going. Malcolm says, I think watching you order and try black coffee or like a plain cappuccino might even be more interesting, because that is what us enthusiasts would get. Good point. Maybe we'll do more of that. We'll do more of that then. But my approach has typically been like, what does... I guess I'm secretly hoping for the barista that will guide us towards that direction. Right? Because the paradigm that I'm trying to work in, the framework that I'm trying to stay in, is that the barista, who we will always presume is an enthusiast of their own coffee, whether or not they really are or not, but we're gonna presume that. We're gonna presume the baristas are enthusiasts of their own coffee, and they will know their menu and will guide us to something great. It doesn't always happen. So, I always ask the questions that I do because I have that in mind. And I'm hoping that one day I'm going to walk into a place and they're going to be like, yeah, have this coffee. And it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be black. It's going to be... We're hoping. We're hoping. Busa says, Avery Coffee Roasters in Towson, right around the corner from the courthouse. Have you tried that? I have. I was just at Averly Farms. I've been to the Averly Farms in Towson. And I've been to the new one that's closer to where I live. They're very nice. They do a nice job. I went to the Averly Farms. There's no way that, it's in Towson by the courthouse, but it's on the other side of the plaza. So I was like, and it was raining pretty hard yesterday. So I was like, I'm not walking. I'm not gonna, and also, to be honest with you, I would not have walked. I would not have walked. Even if the weather was nice, I would never have walked there. I'm like, I'm a lazy. At the end of the day, I'm lazy. I'm just like, I don't feel like going there. So that was a pretty darn good scone. Nice, and the moisture level was just right, so not too dry, not overtly moist, but just right. That was really good. That was really, and the caramel, was it caramel latte or something? The flavored latte was pretty tasty too. Like nicely made, well balanced. The espresso they used had a good amount of chocolate, like chocolatiness to it. Like it's as enjoyable as like a fun mocha, a hot chocolate. Not overtly sweet. Like I said early on that there was a bit of the whatever flavoring they use, it has this artificially kind of taste to it. My palate got used to that, so it's kind of like now it's okay. But was there a drizzle on the scone? There was a drizzle. There was a glazed drizzle on the scone. Peter's asking, I was eating a strawberry, they called it strawberry shortcake. I don't know why the shortcake part, but strawberry shortcake scone. And it was good. It was good. Nicely baked. Yeah, that was actually a very good scone. Yeah, really well done. Really, really well done. And I liked the way that, it wasn't too... Some places you go and the scones are really nicely smoothened. Much more rustic, much more craggly. And how much did we spend? We spent $8.06, I think. So not a terrible amount of money. Like we've spent a lot more at other places. Like where did we go before? We spent didn't we spend $15? I was like, well, 15. This is not bad. $8, not bad. I gave them the 10 so that they just keep it. Do you like a round or triangle scone? You know what? I like a tasty one. Here's what I like. Okay, so, and maybe this is because I'm a little bit prejudiced, right? If you ever get to London, there is a tea merchant by the name of Fortnum and Mason. They're in the Mayfair district of London. And if you go to Fortnum's, on the top floor, they have a place called the Millennium Tea, the Jubilee Tea, the Diamond Jubilee Tea Room. Go there. It's not terribly cheap, but it's not also wildly expensive. If you get just the afternoon tea, you can get the high tea, because the difference between high tea and afternoon tea is that high tea comes with a beef course, which then makes it this adventurous odyssey of savory and sweet, and you're just massively full. It's really way too much. And I'm talking 10 years ago me, not this year me, right? I'm like that's way too much already. But if you go there, get the high tea. They have the scone. I think the Fortnum and Mason scone is incredibly classic. Texture, flavor, sweetness level. Like, I love it. Every time I go to London or end up in London, I always try to make it there. Like the last time I was there, or I went there, they were like, "Oh, unfortunately, we have a private event in the lounge in the tea room today." I was like, "Oh, it's like, I'm only here for the day, dude. Like, I don't have time for your private event." Anyway, so, uh, but whether triangular or circle, I'm not really. I don't necessarily have a preference. As far as for my personal consumption at Spro, our baker, she made them triangular. I think it's just much. I think it's more efficient for the way that we were cutting them. We get more out of it instead of having to fold it back in. And so I don't. I just want it to be. I want there to be just the right amount of moisture, just the right amount of sweetness, just the right amount of flavor. Baked just right, so it has that nice kind of like texture. So it's soft on the inside, but also kind of textured, not crunchy, but just resistive on the crust. That's what I like. Booster says, tried Mad City Coffee in Colombia. I haven't been to Mad City in quite a while. I went there quite a while ago, but way before now we're talking years. So it's been a while since I've been there. We'll have to get out there and try it. Dev says, these days $8 is cheap for coffee in Scotland. Yeah, I think that was pretty good. I don't know. You guys remember when we went there? I remember. I think we went last week or early this week in some place, and I was like, I remember thinking, $15, $15. Holy smokes! Power Plant says British scones usually use a higher quality butter, so their scones taste better. If you make scone with Lurpak or high fat content butter, they taste super. Ooh, Lurpak. What is? Okay, so I'm here in the United States. I'm not familiar with a brand called Lurpak. Where is that from? And I think butters are so interesting. There can be quite a difference in butters. I don't know if you've explored butters, but we would buy a lot of butter. We would buy from the commercial providers like Costco, International Gourmet. They would, bring us the 1 pound bricks of butter, like sliced into 4. The typical butter, the quartered butter that you see. But then we would also buy some like locally produced butters, and they were, comparatively, the locally produced butters were wildly expensive. Like it's always like wildly expensive when you go local. It's like for example, you could buy, what was it, a gallon of half and half, or a gallon of heavy cream from the distributor would be like $20. And this is like 2010 pricing, so I don't know what it is today. But we would buy from our dairy, local dairy, same gallon of heavy cream, $40. It was like $40. Good Lord. But it's a totally different product. I mean, it's really quite a different product. The quality of the milk, the flavor of the milk, the quality of the fats. Oh man, really so different, so nice. George says, most UK scones are less sweet and usually round as opposed to the triangle shape popular in the US. Ah, yes. But what I like when I go to Fortnum's, and this is what I do at home, but for me to do it at home is such a labor of love, because it takes me weeks to plan this out, right? Like weeks to plan out for scones, right? And I need to start doing this again because I am totally out of a critical ingredient. So after going to Fortnum's many years ago, and having the scones there, they give you like a tower of scones, and they'll give you as much as you want. Like if you eat, you go to some of these like high tea places and they give you the tray of treats, and then you eat all of the one treat and that's it. They're not going to give you any more. If you go to Fortnum's and you eat the scones and you're like, can I have more? They will give you as much scones as you want as long as you're there. And I have gone through many scones. Like when I first started going, I was tearing them up, just gluttonous, tearing them up, because I like my friend, she was always like, don't you want the finger sandwich? Hell no, I don't want the finger sandwich. These are the best scones in the world. I will eat scones all day long. And I like it, just a plain scone. I don't want it to be too complicated. Maybe currants, maybe. But all I want is a nice tub. I want my pot of tea, and I want a tub of the clotted cream, which was a revelation to me when I first had it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a beautiful thing. Clotted cream and lemon curd, and I'll do strawberry jam. Like I make my own strawberry jam, so I'll eat strawberry jam and lemon curd. Gosh, oh my goodness! So you just slather on. But the problem was with the clotted cream. Like if you buy it at the store, it's hella expensive. It's like $8 for a little jar. You're like, what is this? $8, $10, whatever it's called. You're like, that's crazy. So I looked it up. Super easy to make, right? And this is where you want to go to your local dairy, like your local creamery guy, and be like, hey man, I need to buy like some heavy cream from you. And heavy cream is 35% milk fat plus. So you get the heavy cream. Then you go to your kitchen and you take a big pan, like a casserole pan, right? Take the casserole pan, pour get a half gallon. Might as well get a half gallon, right? Get the half gallon, pour that into your casserole, put that in your oven, set it to the lowest temperature you possibly can, typically 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Put that in there, turn it on, and let that sucker run overnight, like 12 hours, 16 hours, maybe 24. Go 24 hours. You have to be very patient, right? At the end of your 24-hour period, you're going to come back and you're going to find your clotted cream. It looks all like funky. It's got this crust on top. It's all probably, especially if you have very like grass-rich milk or heavy cream, it's going to be very like funky looking yellow, orange. Looks like it's kind of like fungi is growing on it. You're like, oh my gosh, that's bacterial growth. I'm going to die from that. It's not fact. It's just crust, right? Skim that off. There's a layer now of like clotted fat. That's the clotted cream. Cut that off, and there's a layer now beneath it of like essentially whey. It's basically the water, right, left over. Just reserve the whey. Like you could cut into it and make a hole and then pour it into a bowl, but hold on to that. Then you take your jar and then you just scoop out this clotted cream and you shove it in your jar and try to pack it in there so there's no air bubbles. And then you could freeze it and it'll last a year. Oh my God. If you do that, man, well worth the effort. It takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of time, but it's well worth the effort. And then with the whey, or I don't know if it's really considered whey, but the byproduct, the milky, watery byproduct, use that as the liquid in your scone. Truly, truly key. Truly, truly. Peter asks, do you put jam before cream or cream before jam? I put cream before jam. I like the way it looks better. I think it's prettier. It looks more delectable in my eyes. George says, whenever we do our next live get-together, I'll make a bunch of scones. Oh, nice, nice. And whether blueberry or whatever produce is in season, perfect. And I usually use Kerrygold. I love Kerrygold. It's such a nice, and the nice, at least here in America, Kerrygold, this Irish-style butter, so available at like the grocery store. So it's got nice flavor, nice saltiness to it. I like that. George believes in cream first, then jam on top. Agreed. Powerplant says Challenger's usually touted as the best nationwide available butter, and it tastes dismal. No doubt, it totally does. It totally does. There's a couple of European butters that I was eating. I can't remember the names of them offhand, but man, they are really. There is such a nice. Plugra is not too bad. There was one butter I was eating quite a bit of recently, maybe about a year ago, but I can't recall which one it is anymore. Peter says, I've only ever seen rounded scones. Yeah, I think like George is saying, I think the triangular scone is something that's really here in America. Right? Like when I was watching that one guy, I don't know if you've seen that guy on YouTube. Older British dude, he's down in Dallas, Texas now. He used to be the cook for Princess Di. Like he does it round, and I was like, oh, he's got a nice. If you're looking for a nice scone recipe, I think he's got a nice recipe. I've tried his recipe. That's kind of good. Powerplant says Lurpak, Kerrygold, Presidente are all quite good and can be found. Oh, Presidente, I've never tried Presidente. It's funny when you're an American who is used to heavy cream and then you see British double cream. Oh yeah. Well, I don't even know what double cream is. Is that the same thing? There's a lot of things that I don't understand. Custard. I guess I understand that. I understand that more now. One of the things I always wanted to make at Spro is that And this is a very geeky, nerdy kind of like reference, but maybe you guys might be familiar with it. I wanted to make something called fish fingers and custard. And I finally figured out how to do it. And I didn't really figure it out, but basically I took this idea because I basically took it from, I read an interview with one of the crew members. So this is, fish fingers and custard is something that's from Doctor Who. When Matt Smith became the Doctor in 2011, I think it was, or 2015? 2015. And he first met Amy Pond when Amy Pond was still a very young girl. And he went to her house and he's like, I need to eat something. So one of the things he really ate in the show was something called fish fingers and custard. So the idea is that you're taking fish fingers and you're dipping it in the custard and you're eating it. And it's like, that sounds disgusting, right? Fish fingers and custard. And it's meant to be a little bit gross, right? But I wanted to offer that on the menu because they told me that what they did for Matt Smith was they actually took coconut cake, battered it, dipped and battered and fried it. And then he used that in the custard. And I was like, that's a good one. I'm going to do that. So one day, we're going to do that. Power Plant says making cloudy cream is very similar to making soy milk skin. Ooh, I have not tried that. The one thing I've also wanted to try when it comes to skin is milk skin. Juan Marie Arzak of Arzak in Spain. I attended a seminar with him once, and Juan Marie was showing us how to make the milk skin, where he takes milk, he doesn't necessarily scald it, he basically puts it in the microwave and microwaves the heck out of it. And during the microwave, it's like 5 minutes in the microwave or something like that. And I have to look at my notes, but it creates a skin that you can peel off the top of the milk and then use in a variety of ways. Again, I'm enamored by the technique, but I'm not brilliant enough to know how to use it. Ken says, my preferred butter costs approximately $8 a pound. I think that's a fair price for, I agree. I agree with that. Power Plant says the best, if you have something that's delicious and wonderful and brings joy, like, it's worth the money. It's worth the money. Like I will, like I said, we will, for general baking, I'll bring in Costco level, just general commercial level butters for most products. But certain things you want to have a nicer product. And while knowing you really can never poo-poo on butter because it's butter, right? But there is a difference. There's a big difference in butters. Power Plant says the best way to make fish fingers and custard is to go and buy a primo cod fillet, dozen eggs, and cream, and then throw them. That's a good one. I like that. Keone says some of the best custard tarts in Thailand can be gotten at KFC, and just to be clear, I'm pretty sure that Keone means KFC as in Kentucky Fried Chicken, not Korean Fried Chicken or something else. Because there's interesting things to be had at Asian KFCs from what I've seen. A friend didn't believe me and now is hooked. And Peter says Matt Smith is the best doctor. I really like Matt Smith, and I loved I think as much as I enjoyed the very first era of the reissue of Doctors with Christopher Eccleston, I did like his series. I'm a fan of Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, that era. The Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Amy Pond, and Jenna Coleman era. Love that. That's my favorite era. That's my favorite time of Doctor Who. Oh, and Tom Baker. You can't. Tom Baker is he's my childhood Doctor Who. And actually, he was but when I was young, though, I was a Star Wars fan, and I was mostly a Star Wars fan and a Star Trek fan, right? I'm actually reversed now. I'm actually more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan now, because I realized certain things in life. But Tom Baker, he's classic. He's like the ultimate Doctor. But the problem for me is that I remember watching Doctor Who when I was young, and I was like, these effects look cheesy compared to Star Wars. I was like, what is wrong with these people? This looks all like, these guys look all busted. Now we're going to have a trade war with the United Kingdom. Peter says Malaysia KFC fried chicken tastes better than other places. Ooh, I have not had KFC in Malaysia. Actually, when I went to Malaysia, I was trying to eat as much kopitiam food as I could possibly eat, or whatever local foods. I want to eat the local foods. It takes me a while. Like, I have to go there a lot in order to get to like regular food. Like, for example, I used to go to Paris quite a bit, and I remember across this, and I always stayed at the same hotel in the 7th, just because I liked it. It was cheap, it was nice, it was centrally located, great. Across the street from my hotel was this Korean restaurant. Looked interesting, and I was like, Korean, I would like to have that. But then I was like, I'm not going to a Korean restaurant in Paris. For God's sake, that's crazy. So for like 3 or 4 trips, I never went there. I went everywhere else. Like by the 4th trip or something like that, I remember I had reached a point where I had eaten everywhere that I wanted to eat. I was like, I've tried everything that I wanted. I'm going to try this Korean place. So I went across the street to this Korean joint, and I ordered their bibimbap. And I got to say, maybe it's because it's in the 7th, maybe because it's Paris, maybe because it's the French influence. I don't know what it was. But it was one of the best bibimbaps that I've ever had. Like, everything was fresh. The vegetables were fresh. Everything was fresh. It was like, I remember sitting there thinking, like, people in France are so into, like, quality food that even the Korean food is really excellent. So, I don't know. That's just a thought. M0's with us. If you guys and gals like science fiction, you should watch Resident Alien. Oh, I love Resident Alien. It's kind of weird because the kids are getting old, right? So they're getting older. So they were a lot cuter when they were younger, right? The mayor's son and the Muslim girl. The Muslim girl's always fun to watch, though. She's always got good character. George says that I also volunteer to bake a Brit-style scone compared to my usual country. So, all right, let's do it. Peter says Tom Baker's my favorite to Matt Smith. Yeah, agreed. I mean, Tom Baker, like, classic. It was so great to see him come back in the, what was that, the episode, it was 2018, I think it was, the Day of the Doctors, where all the doctors came back, and like, Tom Baker was the museum curator, you know? They had chili sauce at KFC. Ooh, really? Booster says BBC budget for Doctor Who was low, but the acting and story was what I focused on over. I know, but I was only maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, so I was like, and I'm from America, so we're all about the spectacle. So I was like, spectacle. Like, you got this big Star Destroyer right at the very beginning of Star Wars. Like, oh my God, what is that? What is that little tiny Tantive 5 trying to run from it? They're gonna take it over. They're gonna save the princess. Oh, somebody help the princess, right? So, and then here's this little mechanical dog. What is that mechanical dog doing? What's this canine thing? That's just crazy. But the companion, always attractive. You're like, oh. Not as stunning. I mean, don't get me wrong, Elizabeth Sladen. In no way am I going to besmirch her memory. Loved her, but my true British crush in that era was Jenny Gutter from Logan's Run. I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. Well, Logan's Run, 1970. 7-year-old me was like, oh my gosh. Booster says, Blake 7. Peter's best comedy BBC is Red Dwarf. Oh, I've not seen that one. Kerry says that Peter, they have chili sauce in the KFC in Thailand. There's a great chicken place. There are great chicken places here, but KFC and McDonald's is good in a pinch. Yes. I went to that when I was in Thailand. I went to a bunch of places, but one of the places I wanted to check out was the restaurant that there's a YouTuber by the name of Mark Wiens. I don't know if you ever watched it, but he's an interesting guy, American-ish guy. I say American because he's mixed, right? Family's from Hawaii, and his family lived in Hawaii. Well, his part of his family comes from Hawaii, so he's got a nice, he's got a blend of cultures in his blood, and I enjoy his videos overall. But like one thing, and I wonder, like sometimes, am I becoming like that? Because when you watch his videos, like he goes to all these places all over the world, but he never has a bad experience. Like he never hates anything. Like he never is disappointed. He's always like, it's amazing. And like sometimes you wonder, is it possible to have only great experiences, right? Like, and sometimes I wonder, like as I'm doing our live streams here, like, am I being too nice? Like, am I not being reflective of like, am I trying to be too? Am I being like Mark Wiens? But anyway, he has a restaurant a fast food joint in Bangkok, right by not Osok. I forgot the name of the station. But he does they focus on a particular dish. Now I can't remember the name, but basically rice with 2 eggs and a protein and I went to go check that out. Not bad. Not the greatest I ever had. Like the thing I was disappointed about is that he married Mark Wiens married a Thai woman. That's why he lives in Thailand, and he's got a mother-in-law that looks like the battle axe of mother-in-laws, right? Like she's like battle axe Thai woman. You're like, oh my gosh, and so when he opened this restaurant, I was like, oh, he opened a restaurant. I wonder if he's using his mother-in-law's recipes, because I bet his mother-in-law, we've seen a couple of videos where his mother-in-law cooks, and I was like, oh man, his mother-in-law must have some bomb recipes. But he actually partnered up with a bunch of like other guys that are YouTubers and like rich guys as well, and they built their own restaurant. Well, the one's a chef, one's a YouTuber, cooking guy, and and they came up with something that they all agree is really great. But when I went there and I had the dish, I was like, it's good, but it's not great because it's kind of like it's very appealing to people, right? So I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed in that respect. All right, here we go. Now we're going to cruise through Reisters Town, the rest of Reisters Town. Busha says, I've heard those big-time internet food reviewers get paid from some of the restaurants they review. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he does or not. I mean, maybe. I mean, because him and that other guy, the world's best food review show, that guy Sonny, they have tremendous followings. But one thing I don't like about Sonny, like one thing what I really like about Mark Wiens, that he's willing to try anything, and he'll try anything. Sonny is very American in his approach. Like he's got the typical American like palate prejudices that he can't seem to get over. So sometimes I watch him and I'm like, I'm not a big fan of. I mean, I love the way he shoots. I like the way they do their production. I don't know if I love him as much, right? But you know what? That's how it is. You don't always love the people that are on television. Yes, thank you, Power Plant. Podka Pro. That's what exactly. I actually did a video there. That's like the only non-coffee video I shot I released from Thailand. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm kind of a fan. So let me go visit and like check it out. All right, let me put this down because I need to like drive. Power Plant says Wiens went to the monastery in Syria. Wow. Oh yeah, really? That is. Yeah, I think overall I would be very surprised if Mark Wiens was actually getting paid. I mean, to do positive reviews. I mean, but I do like that he goes pretty much anywhere. And what I like about him also is that it's really him and his wife and his child, I think, because it doesn't seem he never really has a crew. Like he just seems to be shooting it all by himself. I'm like, dude, I don't like to think about it. It's like you probably make enough money on YouTube that you could afford to have a crew with, or at least a cameraman with you. I'm surprised that he doesn't. Peter says to watch the British one. Oh, okay. And also the IT crowd is a funny comedy as well. M0 says, do people like American food as much as Americans like theirs? It's hard to tell. Barbecue maybe, but is that really American? I would say barbecue is very American. Like, let's look at a lot of the cuisines, and I think this is true of, cuisines in other parts of the world as well. But let's say American cuisines, like barbecue. And we talk about, barbecue is really about the ribs. It's about the brisket. It's about cuts and pulled pork and things like that. Typically, these are all offcuts. The stuff that the masters discarded, right? They were just the masters had the steak, or they had the prime cuts of all the meats. And all that extra stuff was just detritus that they were just it's too beneath them to eat. So they gave it to their servants. They gave it to their slaves. Here in the United States, they gave it to their slaves, the ribs. The slaves had to eat. So the slaves had to find a way to take these relatively cheap, these comparatively cheap and poor quality cuts, right? We're talking about brisket and stuff like that. They're part of the reason that they're cooked for such a long time is because they're so tough. They're so undesirable that they have to cook them down so they can break down the collagens to make them tender enough to eat. So, yeah, I think that something like barbecue definitely very American. Now, that's not to say there's not barbecue type of foods that develop spontaneously in other parts of the world. I mean, we see in Mexico the barbacoa. I don't really know the history of all these things, but I think there's a lot of hand in hand. And then there's I think there's also cross-border influences. Or actually, there was no border back then. We were where Texas and all that was Mexico. So it's not cross-border. It was actually their influence. It was their culture, their cuisine. So, I don't know. That's a thought. Just a thought. Boosa says they have crews and have to pay people. So if they start giving crappy reviews, business would probably start to shun them. That could be, but then you have places like David Portnoy with Barstool Sports. I mean, he'll come out and tell you if it's not good, and people still. But the exposure is very. I think that's what a lot of people have to have. I think that's what they pay for is that exposure, and also I think that. If you're a business that's not doing quality product, what's there to say about that, right? Keone says Pad Kaprao Mu Kai Dang, stir-fried with holy basil and fried egg is probably the most popular dish in Thailand. Oh, I do like that. Sometimes I'll make that at home. Peter says he ate bugs in Thailand. You're not the only one. Don't worry. Don't worry. Power Plant says New Orleans food is also very American. I would agree with that. Devin says that one could argue that barbecue was the first form of human cookery. That's a good point. Once we've found fire. Keone says that cricket, silkworm, and field rat are some foods that are great, but many Westerners would never try. I would try them. I would give it a try. Field rat, that reminds me of the movie Demolition Man with Sylvester Stallone. Esta carne, esta rata. And I was like, oh, rat burger. Oh, God. M0 says he would try insects. Crickets, I could maybe do crickets. Seriously, I've been on that. I've seen that on food travel shows. It's kind of like a land shrimp. Yeah, the crickets look very. Oh no, I've had crickets. Very interesting, very crunchy. Power Plant says human cookery sounds wrong. It sounds wrong. I'm sure if you talk to a cow, he would say cow cookery sounds wrong too. But sometimes you're just hungry. George says that I think New Orleans cuisine is quite different from virtually everywhere else in the U.S., heavily influenced by French and Spanish, and also influenced by natives and African slavery. Absolutely, absolutely. I think a lot of American cuisine is influenced by African slavery. Which makes sense. Like if the African cooks that they enslaved and brought to America, you know, they would. I imagine they're probably bringing some of their own cooking sensibilities and tastes to the master's dishes, right? I mean, I think back in those days, the English were like into boiled potatoes and boiled meat, so that sounds not too interesting. And George says, indeed, I agree. My point was that it was not as American as we might think today. Oh, okay, gotcha, absolutely. All right, so that was the trip to the Reisters' daughter. I hope that was interesting. Like, we had the caramel, what was it, caramel latte? I forgot what she said, caramel, not bad. A little bit artificial tasting with the syrup, but overall, nicely executed, not too sweet. Fairly well balanced with a really tasty strawberry shortcake scone. I don't know where the shortcake part came from, but it was good. It was good. Well done. Well made. Nicely moist. Good texture. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for today. We're going to be back again tomorrow. The Bongju Ho Snowpiercer. Whoa, I don't even know what that is. Oh, has lovely. I guess that's a place in Thailand. Better than Court's House vending machine, no doubt about that. But it was only $1.50, so it wasn't terrible. Well, $1.65, but you have to pay a little bit for using credit card. Back in tomorrow for another episode of the Coffee Q&A. And if you're not too busy tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Ono Live channel, I do another live stream. More it's called the Coffee and Cigars live stream, but it's really more focused on cigars. Just a little bit of coffee. So if you feel so inclined, some of us are there. Come join us. Mom and George are usually with us. So, but if not, back in tomorrow. So hope to see you then, and see you next time.